It's funny because initially I was going to be like, oh, like I'm the last person in between you and a drink, but now I feel like I'm the last person in between us finding out where the next 7 and 7 is, which I think is almost worse because the amount of people that have asked me if I know where the next 7 and 7 is and I don't. But this won't take too long. So I want to start off by telling you why I got so interested in communities. So I grew up moving a lot, traveling around, living somewhat similar lifestyle to the one that many of us do now. And I realized a few years back when I was kind of like digging around emotionally, like why I was so fascinated by communities, and the realization was that it's because I never felt like I was a part of one. And this realization taught me so much about the way that I perceive people and about the way that I kind of was able to observe a lot because of that. I would go somewhere with my family for 6 months, and I'd get to see what communities looked like, but I didn't get to fully immerse myself in it. And then I would leave and maybe kind of become a part of another one. And it's kind of funny because then when I actually became a digital nomad, about 1.5 years ago now, I would tell my friends that I was a nomad, and they were like, what are you talking about? Like, you were always a nomad. Like, what do you mean? And I'm like, yeah, but like we didn't have like a name for it back then. Like now I get like a cool title. Like I get to say that I'm a digital nomad, right? Like we have created a community out of something that, like frankly, when I was a kid, like we were called crazy for, right? Like there was just no other word. Like I remember going back home and people would be like, your family's crazy. I don't know what's wrong with you, but like cool, like keep doing your thing. And I think it's really cool because, like, standing here and looking at all of you, I think this is the first time that I've ever spoken to a room where I can very comfortably say that all of you know what it feels like to be that kind of outsider. And even more than that, like, I'm really proud of that, and I think probably most of us are. Like, I am 100% okay with being an outsider in this aspect. Like, I'm really happy about it. I think we don't focus enough on how this community is thriving. Like we talk a lot about how we can fix certain things and work on mindfulness and grow as people, but the fact is compared to a lot of the societies that we come from, not to say that this is better, but we are thriving, right? And even more particularly, as Kit said, like in this community, everybody is so generous and kind. And the fact that we are at a conference and I have met 75, 80% of you, and there's 100 of us is pretty nuts. I go to conferences all the time. I usually meet like maybe 10 people, right? Like this is huge. And as I talk about communities, I really want us to remember this and be able to even look at this and what they have created here as an example. So what I'm going to try to do as I'm talking about communities is think about how we are all impacted by my discussion. I have worked in a lot of different spaces for this topic, right? And we are all so different that there's not one way to say that this works. So I'm going to try to give you a few strategies and tips as to what it can look like. So one of the major things for me, coming from a background in marketing, is that I really want us to focus on empathy when it comes to marketing. And to me, that means communities. Even if it's 1 or 2 person communities, it still works, right? It's the fact that we are focusing on empathy. And typically speaking with marketing, even if it's for us, even if it's for me, like it's brand facing, like what I promote is this, right? But we need to be better at doing the opposite and promoting this instead. So based off of everything I'm going to talk about, next time you sit down and do a social post or an ad or whatever it is that you do to market your business, I really want you to be able to review what community means to you and who you are actually trying to impact with this. Let's see. Okay. So I'm going to tell you my #1 rule about communities for everybody that I work with. Your community works for you. And the reason that this is really important is that if our community doesn't want to work for us, we are not functioning. Being able to understand what that means isn't always easy because we so badly want to create a concept that everybody is interested in, but it just doesn't work like that, right? Like, we need to create something that is empathetic and understanding and gives us all value. I kind of like to say it like, to me, marketing is a little bit like an artificial plant, right? Like, it's pretty, and you can't always tell that it's not real, right? But communities are living and breathing. People come and go, it's alive, you need to water it, but if you water it too much engagement, it might die. There's a lot of different ways that you can go around navigating this, but this is the idea behind community management, right? But one of the main important things that as you are managing a community is that you understand that the older it gets, the more that it can live on its own, right? So communities can live and exist in many different environments, but as community leaders, as community organizers, we need to decide where it thrives. So my second rule is related to this. I have this thing that I like to call invisible communities, right? These are communities where we have a space where there's people that connect to each other. For example, very important, I like pineapple on pizza. Awesome. Yeah, so there's this connection with people that like pineapple on pizza. It's just a thing. If you don't like it, I'm sorry, you're not part of this community. But I swear to God, every time that this comes up in a conversation, we understand each other in a way that other people just don't. This is an invisible community. It doesn't necessarily need somewhere to live. It's alive on its own. It's doing fine. We are still ordering pineapple on pizza, right? So pretty much to tell you a little bit about my job, it's taking things like this and then working with corporations to actually create communities out of them. Natural communities over conceptualized communities, right? So a lot of brands and corporations are like, oh, hey, like I have this like AI messenger bot and I want to create a community off of it and like let's have people get together and talk about it. And it's like, I don't want to talk about your messenger bot, I'm good. People want to talk about tech, right? And about the future of the internet, they want to talk about AI, right? What is a community that's already intact that maybe doesn't have a space to talk about what they want to discuss? All right, so as you heard earlier, I ran a marketing agency in LA for a while. Our focus was on creative content, similar to that. That is one of ours. So when I was working in LA, I had this moment where I looked back and I saw how many companies I was working for that were just run by, no offense to anybody, a white dude that had family money, and they were actually doing really well. And I decided that I didn't want to just work for startups that come from that space, right? It's not to say that there's something wrong with all of it, but LA itself, like as a city, has a lot of friends and family money. That's kind of the way that it runs. It's different than a lot of other cities in the States. Like if you were in San Francisco, there's no way most of these companies would go through funding. But because there's celebrities and lots of families with money, it works. So I stepped away to work in what I do now. One of the main things that I learned from working in creative strategy, in content strategy, from actually working with creatives that create content, I really realized how much good content can isolate, right? And we've gotten to this space with social media where we see so many pretty pictures every single day that it's insane. Like, I don't need to see any more pretty pictures. Like, it doesn't make a huge difference to my life anymore. And like, sure, this is for a boutique for probably $800, $2,000 dresses in Venice in Abbot Kinney, which is the demographic. Like, it's fine, it works, right? But this isn't going to work for much longer. Like, we are getting to a space and time where we're just not interested in that anymore, especially with the next generation. Like, this just isn't gonna fly. So one of my main things, especially with creating communities and as we are putting ourselves out there, is how we're being authentic. And we can say that all day long, and what does it really mean aside from I'm being myself, right? But my main 3 rules when I am testing content or I'm working with clients and I'm like, hey, you need to think about these things as you're putting stuff out there. So number 1, read it out loud and ask yourself if this is something that you would naturally say. Sounds really simple, but the amount of times that I've been sitting at my computer having to write social posts and I just get into this like haze where my mind doesn't want to do anything anymore, and it's just like all of a sudden I look down and I've created like a salesy post and I'm like, what the hell is wrong with you? Like, this is literally what you like are talking about and you can't even manage it yourself, right? So I make myself read everything out loud, and I make sure that everybody that's putting stuff on their websites, on social media, wherever it might be, that this is something that you would actually say to someone. Next, if it's for a client, ask yourself if you would share it on your personal accounts. That's not to say that you should, because it typically wouldn't work. But the question is if this is something that you feel proud enough about that you are okay putting your name on it. And the third, and this is kind of funny for me because Lauda came up to me and she was like, I was looking at your website and everything that you've done and your pictures, and she's like, so when you left LA, I was like, oh yeah, like I left LA and I left the agency. She's like, yeah, so did you break up? And I was like, what? Like, yeah, I left the agency. She's like, no, did you like break up? I'm like, oh, you like really did your digging? And so my next rule is that you need to think about every single thing that you do as if someone's going to be Googling you. If you Google me, like there's a lot of pictures with my ex, which is fine. Like we work together, it's cool. Like I understand the consequences of it. But also we need to be aware of all of the work that we are putting out there, even if our name isn't on it, that we would be okay with our name being on it. To create a strong community, we need the following: to feel that we are gaining value, to feel safe and heard, to be empowered, but also challenged. And I think this is one we forget a lot. We want to make it really easy for our communities to engage with us, to the fact that we don't want to challenge them because we get scared that it's going to turn them away. But if you're not challenging your community, I can guarantee you that they will leave and find a community that does challenge them. And last, it needs to be exclusive. Same way here, there's only a certain amount allowed. Every single community that you will remain a part of needs to be exclusive in one way or another. You need to have merit to be there. You need to understand like a certain aspect of something to be there. You need to be part of a group that cares about each other. Even if that exclusivity just comes from empathy and understanding who we are, it still needs to be exclusive. So I'm going to skip this one. Oops. This one, because I feel like I've talked a little bit about the work that I do. All right, so these are my biggest time savers, right? You don't need to do the second one. The first one you do need, clearly. But I think like one of the biggest things that we can understand as leaders is that the biggest decision that we can make is deciding when we need other leaders, right? I work as a consultant and a strategist. I am not a community leader. I think the way that my brain works, I would not probably be a very good community leader. I need other people to do that. We need to understand when it's time to pass something off and allow our community to grow and lead itself. That's not to say that we step away, but it is to say that we need to find the right person. And if I am not the case study of the community that I am creating, if I am not literally the person that you want most people to emphasize with, then I am not the community leader that you need. The second one, and this is a trick that I use a lot, and I do not see enough other people doing it. We need to collaborate, and we need to not be afraid to do it if there's not a financial reward for that. I've worked with really big companies and not made anything off of it. It's still worth my time. For example, last month in New York, we hosted an event. I'm on the board for this nonprofit called Restless Development. And we hosted an event at the BBC Media Action offices. So we host this event on a quarterly basis. Typically, we have about 50 people that show up. We hosted it at BBC Media Action, and we got over 300 RSVPs. Literally, the only difference was the fact that it was at BBC Media Action. Like, this is not something that we can glaze over and be like, oh, we're grassroots, like we don't need big names to work with. Like, you do. And it helps you so much. I can't even tell you, since I've learned this, how much time it saved for me, how much I've been able to hand off more work, and how much I've been able to create really incredible partnerships. Okay, I'm getting told I have very little time. So one of the things that I do want to mention is about community management. So for this event at BBC Media Action, so the event manager that I was working with called me This was only about a week before the event, and she's like, hey, I need to talk to you about something. I was like, all right. And she's like, I don't know how to say this, but Alex Jones RSVP'd to the event. Yeah. So, does everybody know who Alex Jones is? Okay. So, let's just say white supremacist, super far right in the U.S. Let's just go with that. He created InfoWars, but anyways, so he RSVP'd, right? And I'm like, well, first off, cool, we got good reach. Second, I'm like, she's like, so do we need to, like, she's like, so should we invite him for, like, the sake of bipartisanship? And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, no. But we're also like, okay, we need to do this somewhat strategically, right? And it was really funny having that engagement and discussing with her. She does not work in community that much. She does more just like the technical aspects of events. And I'm like, dude, like we can't have this person here, like no matter what. Like we cannot have Alex Jones at a discussion for media and social movements where literally everybody comes from the development sector. So what we did is we emailed him and we told him he couldn't come. Although I have to be honest, I kind of half wanted him to so that we could kick him out because that would have been great. So I just want to bring that up because just like I said that this creating communities is like a living creature, it's like a plant, like we need to take care of it. Alex Jones would have been toxic for our community, right? And we need to understand when there are toxic people in our communities that we need to be able to manage that, and we can't just let it keep festering and then eventually do something to our community, right? We need to be careful about it. And that's not to say that you can just kick someone out because that's not the way communities work. You need to be able to manage it, but we still need to be thoughtful about who is in our community and make sure that we are still considering everybody with the compassion and empathy that we created the community with in the first place. Let's see. Because I know they want to kick me off. Okay, this is very simple, and this is just me yelling at you, pretty much. I talk to so many people that have an amazing network of friends and family and do not ask them for help with building their communities. Like this, seriously, just a call to action for everybody. Like, please start taking advantage of them and let them take advantage of you. Like, it's totally fine. But so many people start marketing their product and sharing their product and trying to build a community without actually accessing the people that they have first. I've done this. Like, it's taken me a long time to be comfortable putting myself out there because it's so much tougher to the people that we're close to. We feel like they're so much more likely to judge us than a community that we do not know. But we need to push ourselves to do that. And honestly, if I can challenge you to anything from this in general, is to reach out just to a couple people and to start feeling more comfortable sharing new projects that you're working on that people don't know about yet. I'm going to close there because I'm clearly done.
Thank you, Amber. That was not enough applause, you guys. Bring it back. So I think that was, thank you for that, because this is such a good talk for our community. Like, everybody here is like trying to build something.
Of course.
What do you think the biggest challenge is that people don't anticipate when starting a project that involves community organizing?
Yeah, so community organizing is not a fast tactic. And as someone that worked in marketing a lot, like I know people want really fast results. And community organizing just isn't the way to do it, but I can tell you that it is well worth putting the time in because just like I said, your community works for you. The same way that I all know that we are gonna do our best to go to Antarctica and to promote the hell out of it, you need to do the same thing with your communities, and that's why it's worth spending time on them.
Absolutely. Could not agree more. Questions? I saw, yeah, there, Jenny.
Hi. Thank you. That was a great talk. So as somebody who has a community myself, one question that I have is I've built a few communities, but often I feel like we come up with an idea because we have a certain need in our own lives or maybe in business or whatever, and that's why we want to find other people to connect with who feel the same. But by then building this big community, we somehow kind of build ourselves out of it because we somehow find ourselves in like a leadership position.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that?
So that's why I was saying for me, what I found is really important is finding another leader for my communities. I mean, first off, like I realize it's just not the job for me. I would prefer to be working on strategy and be able to have I'm an ideas person, right? And I know that about myself. And I know that I need to pass off the actual management to other people. So especially, I would say, related to this, like if you're creating a community that you actually want to be able to take advantage of and be a part of, you're going to have to pass it off. And unfortunately, this sounds impossible sometimes because obviously from a financial aspect, that's tough to manage. I am huge on partnerships, which means if we are creating something and we do not have the budget to pay anybody, that you and I are equal, and I am always more than welcome to bring on like a co-founder or someone that's a partner and has equal power as I do, just because we can work on it together and get to the point where we can make it like something that's financially helpful as well. And I know so many people that I always bring on. I'm like, I can't do this alone and I need help, but I also don't have the financial backing for it. What can we do together? And that's the biggest thing that has helped me to understand, like, first off, that I am not the community leader for this. And then second, that I actually want to be able to take advantage of that part of it. So for example, typically with events, like when I'm doing them, I usually don't work on the management aspect anymore. I'm usually like either doing like a talk or doing a panel or even just moderating something. And then the other people that are working with me are the ones actually running the event.
Awesome. All right, another question? I saw a hand over here. There we go. And there. Two here. Two here and then one up there.
Hi, Amber. Thanks so much for a great talk. I was wondering, because could you talk a little bit about making an international community? This is one where you do actually have a conference every year that people fly out to. What if you wanted to build an international community without actually having a yearly gathering like this?
Yeah, okay, so a lot of digital communities are international, right? But I still like to give people an opportunity to create meetups in real life. I honestly just feel that it makes such a huge difference. But I think as community leaders, we have a tough time, like the same way that we have a tough time passing it off. Sometimes we're like, oh, I'm not there, like I need to, like, no, you don't need to be there. Like, if anything, you want your community to have direct leaders in it, even if they're not called leaders. Like, these are people that are engaging with your community more than anybody else. And you need to be able to give them the tools to empower in real life meetings. So sometimes that's as simple as saying like, hey, we have a toolkit for your meetup, and this is how you can create meetups in any city that you want around the world. But that's how you take like that digital community to being in real life. But I have seen communities that are only online, and some of them survive, but it's not going to be the most engaged community that you want.
Awesome. Hannah?
Hey, so actually piggybacking off of what Jenny said, I'm wondering if you mean like feeling lonely in your own community, because that's something I've experienced.
Yeah.
But something I've done is I'm actually giving my community members in my paid community more influence, I guess. You said give members space to influence. I have like a monthly thing where they can be a president. So for that month, they're the president, and then I give them a review on their social media management skills. And that's one way that I've managed sort of passing that off. So just wanted to share that really. But I would love to talk to you later about that, Jenny, because I also have experienced that with my community.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Sarah, did you have a question? No? Oh, I thought you were saying you can go up. Back there, we've got a couple hands back up at the top. While she's going up, yeah, I think that similar to what I said when you asked what I was most surprised about with 7 and 7, like definitely like the fact that, a week and a half ago I went to a meetup there was like a food market, and I went and I sat down and I was like, I don't need to be here. I was like, I didn't need to be there. Like, other than, of course, like hanging out with you guys is amazing, but like it happened without anyone from
we shared
7
a
and 7.
waffle.
I know, okay, yes, no. We bonded over waffles, which is something I do.
Waffles or pancakes, right?
Yeah, Beck and I have a pancake thing.
So my question was about what are some tips or thoughts that you have about how to keep that audience engaged? But it did just occur to me that the reason that I don't know that is probably because I shouldn't be doing it. Maybe I just posted just now in my group to say I need a community manager because I'm not doing a great job of
of that. So maybe that's the answer.
I
But
think
you can
that
still feel free to
I think
answer.
that is the answer. And like I said, the fact that you just became aware of that is huge. Like it took me a long time. Like our egos get in the way, right? But I will disappear like for a few days at a time, and like I'm active, but I'm not the most engaged member of any community. I understand that I also, as extroverted as I am, I like my space. And when I get too deep in a community, unless it's something that I am like, this is my life, like I tend to feel a little bit uncomfortable. So for me, like I just had to understand that as much as I love communities and I love being a part of building them, I do not like to be the person that's actually having to like get everybody like energized and going for it.
Awesome. All right, we've got
To kind of piggyback off of that, and also something you said earlier about giving people toolkits to be the ones that do the local meetups.
Yeah.
I've been involved in the travel space, like a couple different organizations that work like that are international, and they're really big about building chapters in different places. And in particular, in New York, where I'm based, there was just a huge blow up one time of the people that they chose and the people running it together and of like what should have been their biggest chapter. It just has never gotten off the ground. So do you have some tips about how to, not just like apart from providing that toolkit and some recommendations, but how to identify those people to be the ones in the communities to make sure that they're bringing your values forward and things like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first part is it should be natural, right? Like you shouldn't have to look for it. You should know immediately who that person is, or who those people are. But I do know also like organizations and companies that do create, like I said, toolkits, but that also have a pretty extensive application process to be that person. So it really depends on what you do, how much that matters, right? Like there's probably pretty simple things where it's maybe not a big deal, with a meeting. But if it's actually going to be an event and there's going to be a panel and speakers and a moderator, typically they will have some sort of screening process to make sure that it aligns with their values. And then again, depending on how extensive it is, there's even times when you have to like sign a contract and like make sure that you're upholding like the organization's values and following all of their rules and everything. So it really depends on what it's specifically for, because that application process, if it's not a large enough community, could also kind of like scare off people from applying for it, right? Like if it's not a huge community, like why are you going to be going through this whole application process to do more work? But if it is something that's larger and has a good community and you're actually getting something out of creating this meetup, I think it's probably worth having a more extensive screening process for that.
Awesome. Okay. All right. Let's do Trish and then Lewis, and then that's all we've got time for.
Just one question. Do you have an idea of what is critical mass for a good online community, or does it depend on what it's for?
It really depends on what it's for. I mean, obviously, I will always say like quality over quantity of community members. Like if you have 20,000 people that aren't engaging, then what do they really mean? But it really depends on the community. I mean, there's communities that thrive with 15 members. Like for example, like our Next Gen group, we started off with, for Google, like we started off with 80 members, and I think we're going down to 50 because they are actually picking the people that are really engaged, and that's it. Right, so bigger isn't always better. Like you really want people that are engaged and constantly active within the group.
Lewis, last question.
So I realized when I was listening to what you were saying that every time you said community, I just replaced it with like the words Facebook group, which isn't. But I don't really love Facebook. And do you have any suggestions or thoughts on like Facebook is obviously very powerful. People are there. But I don't know, if I could get away from Facebook and like this and never touch Facebook again, I would. Like,
but
thoughts?
You want something similar, it sounds like.
I want a place where I can get a level of engagement, and people will be, and...
It really depends on what you do and like what your industry is. But I mean, Slack is something that a lot of people have moved over to, so there's a lot of communities in Slack. But I have so I worked with creatives for a long time in the creative agency, and creatives are impossible to get on Slack. Like it's just not a possibility. So it really depends on what you do, because I think Slack is a good option, and I've seen that work really well for some companies. But again, if you're running like an arts organization, like just not a good idea. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
Reddit can totally work.
Jen, you have something to add?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Okay. Well, everyone, give Ambar a huge round of applause. Thank you so much.